Hello there, my name's Vince from My Mate Vince, and in this video today we're going to try to fix up this leaf blower, which is doing this. Then nothing. Have another listen. And if I try to start it off slowly, still does the same thing. It just gives a little vibration, so it sounds like it's kind of doing half or 3/4 of a revolution, and then stops. And it will do that every single time. Now, I've already featured this on my channel because when I bought it, that was what it said in the listing. But then I plugged in my battery and it worked fine. I plugged in this battery and it worked fine. This is a little Milwaukee battery here with a DeWalt adapter on the top. But then weirdly, when I plugged in this bigger one here with the adapter, it didn't work. So lots of people said it was to do with the current, that maybe this one, because this is a faulty battery, but you can see it works fine on 2 wires. You can see it works fine when just using it with this, because there's no safety thing here. It's just two contacts here. But on this one here, you will see that there is actually more than 2 contacts. So obviously it's doing some monitoring off the battery. So a lot of people said that this just couldn't handle the current that this needs. But a few people said that maybe this was providing too much current, and then it was an overcurrent thing that was happening. Either way, it's very strange. So basically, I left the video that it must have been, you know, something to do with the batteries. But then my wife was using this. I've just used it maybe once, and my wife was using it the other day. And after about 3 minutes, it stopped working. I thought, well, the battery didn't last very long. But you can see here that when I do this, we have got 2 out of 3 lights. So we must be whatever, between 33 and 66% full, and it's still doing that. So yeah, it just started doing this all the time now. Whether it's going to be fixable, I really don't know. The very fact it's doing it all the time will make it easier than before when it was only doing it on certain batteries. But you can see on that one, and if I take off this one and do this one here, so I think it's highly unlikely that all my batteries are going to have failed. You can see it's doing the same on every single one. So let's take it apart and see maybe is something different on the inside now than it was before. And hopefully we might, fingers crossed, be able to work it out. Right, now I've got my bench power supply attached to this little adapter here. So this should fool the tool into thinking that, you know, any 18 volt battery will work on it. And I'm at 14 volts now, but I've got it up to the max amps. And if you have a listen, it's just starting to work. Yeah, so any lower than that, it won't work. And if you have a look at what the amps do, so sometimes it goes up to 2.2. There you go, it went over 1 there. But there's very little happening. So let's go up now to 16. You can see it's still not working. Hopefully you can hear that. I'm pressing. Let's go up to 18. Yeah, that was 2 amps there. But this can do 10 amps, so why is it not trying to draw more? And let's go up to 20. And then in case it's an over current thing, so you can see it's still doing the same now at 20 volts. Go a little bit higher. And now I'm going to lower the current right down. I know I'm not touching the leads together, but let's just put it right down completely. So that's nothing. Let's see what's happening now. Right, so nothing now. Let's start putting it up. It's just starting to work. There. Do you see it was kind of going on, off there, on, off, but it still wasn't, it was just like turning on and off. But you get the idea. So basically on my one here, no matter what voltage or amps I have at that, it's not working. Let's take it apart. And when I got this, it was boxed and everything, and it looks immaculate. It doesn't look like it's full of dust. So I'm thinking this has failed from new, or at least maybe from the first or second time of use. There we go. So there's a little lock here to lock this into place. Now I've got loads of screws to undo. Excellent, it gives me an opportunity to use my ridiculously long torque set. To be fair, I don't know why I'm using this, they're only sunk in this much. My arm's getting tired, it's up so high. Do you know what, this is a bit silly. Torque's 15, these are. The model number is DCMBL562. Now obviously if my bench power supply went up to 30 amps or 40 amps or 50 amps, maybe it would work. It's just that it only seems to go up to 2.2 amps, but it might be because it's not quick enough to respond. Okay. Right, let's take all this out. There we go. Now let's just make sure it's still doing it. So hopefully you might even be able to see that in there now. So it's given more, well, it's only powered for about 1 or 2 revolutions, and then it stops. It's just momentum that's putting that around. Okay, now I remember reading in the comments that this diode can sometimes fail here, going across the switch. And the comments said that they've fixed quite a few tools by changing this diode. So I just want to make sure that that is definitely connected properly. Yes, it is. I mean, could it be a switch problem? Maybe. Maybe if we short something out, we can see if it's working all the time or not. Bought myself some nice new leads. Love these leads here. $11.99 on eBay. Last time I bought them in 2022, they were $8.99. Everything's going up. Right. So let's go to diode test. It is in circuit, but let's just see if we have anything. So we're reading it that way, not reading it that way, and it's soldered in. So I'm gonna say that I think the diode is probably okay. So what happens, it must just short these two together, but then we have all these contacts as well, don't we? We've got all these here going off. So I tell you what I'm going to do, just to see, I'm going to unplug this. I want to see what happens when we connect it up now. Will it even attempt to turn on? It might just give us an idea. No, so it's not even attempting to turn on. So it has to see that in order for that to work. It has to see the little wires here. Okay. So I wonder if I was to short these two. Is that what's happening? Keep the battery out for a minute. Let's go on to continuity. Let's go here and here and press it in and see what's happening. Yeah. So if I was to short it with some pliers, because that's a full short, then that would say to me whether the switch is faulty or not. If it starts working, then we know it's something in the switch. Maybe. So let's do this. Hopefully now this isn't going to go. I use some insulated pliers. Hopefully it's not going to go crazy. Let's put it this way around. Slightly apprehensive actually. Okay, here goes. Hope it doesn't spark. Why is it not doing it? No, so it's not doing it. Will it do it now? Is it because these are not shorted? How about if I was to press in and short at the same time? Let me try that, because then these are hopefully going to be shorted as well. No. Okay. Could it be as simple as the motor for some reason is not working? Maybe. I'm just going to give everything a wiggle, just in case, because we've got these nice little push-fit copy Wagos here. Just wiggle there. Let's give that a twist. These are twist. Don't think it's that. Right, let's, do you know what? I think I'm going to go into the switch. Oh, there's something weird here to like lock it in or something. Let's make sure it's nothing to do with that in case it's been knocked into the wrong position, you know, like forward and reverse. Because maybe these are the same tools that are used, sorry, same switch that's used in various different tools. I've suddenly got my hopes up. You know what I mean? It might be kind of in between forward and reverse or something, rather than being one or the other. Let's go that way. No. No, let's go in the middle. No. It looks like if there's 3 contacts, that maybe 2 are going one way and the others going the other way, and then it cuts off because it's not happy. Maybe it is a motor problem. Right, let's, well, first of all, let's finish off going in here because I wouldn't mind seeing what's inside. Have another contact just here. There we go. Oh, nice, it came apart nicely. Right, okay, so we have a fingers. So this is how you do the speed on these little things here, and that's what this is responsible for, the speed side of things. And this is just on and off. Can you see here? The main one is just on and off, going down here. Okay. What's interesting is, look, it kind of makes one before the other. Look, if you watch, it shuts off this one before this one. I think it turns them both on at the same time, but it shuts one off first. One wire before the other. No, hold on. Are they going to the same? Yeah, why have we got 2 when it's just 2 contacts here? Is that one linked to this bottom one? Let's see. Mind you, they're probably going to be shorted through here now. Let me just see if these are linked to each other. Right, so they're not shorting against each other. That's not going here. That's going there. That's not going there. So if I push this in, a little bit confused now. So that's going there. That's going there. Let's go into there. Don't quite know what's happening there when they're both contacting the same thing. Why that matters, unless there's something on the other side of this which is important. Right, so that's that. Is this doing anything down here? No, it's not. So in this particular one, that doesn't do anything anyway. Well, that looks perfectly clean, and I can't see any burning or anything, any arcing down there. So I don't think that's the problem. And when it comes to these contacts, oh, hold on a minute. What's that there? Unless that was me now just taking it apart. Maybe I reached in and scratched it. What's this here? Well, I presume that's designed to be there, because there's no scratch here and no scratch here. That's weird though, isn't it? Signal. Clearly it's meant to be there. Why we've got a break there, I'm not too sure. Don't know why that would be there. I wonder, are these definitely going full travel? You do this. Yeah, I mean, they look okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift them both up just a little bit, just in case they have been flattened down. Right, so you can see they're much higher than they were before. Let's put it back together. That was lovely and easy. I think it might be a motor problem. See now? Same thing. Right, I personally don't think there's anything wrong in here. So let's get to the motor. I've already had this circuit board out before. It was encased in kind of like a rubbery plastic stuff, so I had to cut it open, so it's all going to be a little bit of a mess, but still, it is what it is. And I ripped one of the capacitors off when I was taking off the rubber type coating as well. I can't remember what I did there. I think I just put another one. I think I put a separate different capacitor on, the same values. Or maybe, do you know what? Maybe the values were slightly different, but we had the same fault before as we did after, meaning it still didn't work with some of the batteries. Here we go. Right, so this is the board that I've had out before. So let's just disconnect and disconnect. So we have the main power going in, but then there's the signal wire that tells it how to fire. So we've got tiny little screws, but we have to unsolder these massive big contacts that go into the motor themselves. Right, it looks like these small ones are torque 6, and I'm going to turn my soldering iron on. So is it the motor or is it something on this board? Not sure. Let me try to melt these off. There should be a load of leaded solder on, so it should be a little bit easier. And I'm going to try to just pry up gently while melting. So it's easier said than done because there's a huge amount of thermal mass here with all the coils off the motor and stuff, so it drains away most of the heat. But when I keep the soldering iron on there for ages, it does start to lift up. I also have to use a little bit of solder wick as well, a bit of braid, to try to get some solder out of the holes to make it easier to get this circuit board off. So while I'm doing that, I'll give a shout out to the My Mate Vince Massive, the top level Patreons. And the members this month include Kit, what? Keymon Services. Now you weren't expecting that, were you? So there we go. Keymon Services, Kip Hakes on YouTube, Max Rokotansky, Chris Seal, Felipe at MrKeeves.com, DJVG, Pigsy, Anthony Dean, Russ Melanson, Shigate, Rickard Bergland, SoulReaver555, Shamsa Al Sawadi, Stuart Park, Stephen from the Broken Past on YouTube, Lee Benz, Niall Stone, Operational 117, and a new member to the massive AJ Computer Services UK. So, as always, a massive thanks to each and every one of you. Yay, hallelujah. We are free. Certainly not easy. Now, I did buy this, which I would quite like to use. I just got the cheapest one on Amazon. I think it was about £11, but it'd be the sort of thing you could probably get from AliExpress for a few pounds. Now, I know it's not really going to have the current capabilities of this, but what would be nice is even if I could just see it spin a little bit. So this is a little driver for brushless motors. You put your voltage in here. I think it goes up to 23 volts or something, and this is 18 volts, or we call it 18 volts in the UK, but these would be the same tools that would be called 20 volts maybe in America. The only thing is I don't know where I need to put these three. Let's zoom in and see if we've got any markings on here. That way then I could prove that the motor itself is okay, and then we know there's a problem on here. Right, so that's U. That is M, or no, hold on, well that's U that way, so that's going to be W, and this is going to be V. So I'm going to have a look at the Amazon listing because they definitely had letters next to them, and I might be able to just copy that. Right, I got it here, but I did cheap out and I got the $8.99 one just purely because the pictures look the same as the other ones that were more expensive. But it doesn't show any lettering next to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to a more expensive one and just hope that it's the same, and hope maybe that the circuit board is the same on the inside, because I've definitely seen one that looked like this that had letters next to here. Right, this is the more expensive one, $11.99. I thought it was the same, but if I have a look, it does look a little bit different. Yeah, it does, because basically this has the capacitors out of this side. So I really don't know, but I've got nothing to go on. So I'm going to call this one here U. I'm going to call this one V, and this one W. So I think I'm just going to tap them on, so that's U, V, W. Let's see, and then I don't even know how much this motor will run off. I'm not sure if this board drops it down to 5 volts, for example. I have no clue. So I'm going to use my bench power supply, and I'm going to input voltage into here up to 20 volts to see if we get anything working. So let's do that. I'm not going to make a good job of soldering them on. I just want to tap them on. Never used one of these before, so strangely I'm actually I'm quite excited. So I'm going to put my bench power supply on. It's at 1 volt currently. So let's put the positive on. Actually, let's see what amps we're on. 1 amp. Let's just leave it at 1 amp. So positive, and here. Okay, I'm going to turn this. And nothing's happening. Right, let's start upping the voltage. So I'm going to go to 3 volts. Anything happening? No. 4 volts, nothing happening. 5 volts, because it's in the middle here, so it should be doing something. No, okay. Oh, here we go. Amazing. It's trying. We're just at 5 volts, so I'm going to up it. Just at 6 volts. No, I'm at 8 volts, but it goes down to 6 volts. Maybe I need more current. Interestingly, that's also struggling. I'll tell you what I want to do. I'm worried about putting too much voltage in. I'm going to up the current. I don't know what current it is now, but let me just see if it does anything. Oh, now we're going. Now we're going, and that's only at 8 volts. Amazing. How good is this? I don't want to overload it. Whoa. Yeah, that's going up to 1.9 amps when I do that. 1.2 amps at 8 volts. Well, clearly that's working. Fantastic. Well, that was a good spend of $8.99. So I'm going to turn off the bench power supply now. So maybe this little board drops it down to 8 volts or something like that. Or 10 volts. Not sure. Actually, I suppose it needs to be a lot more powerful. Maybe it does go all the way up to 20 volts. Right, but the thing is, I've proved this not the motor at fault. What I haven't proved though is... No, I think it's going to... What I was going to say is, if, for example, could the motor stop working at 20 volts? But there's nothing clever in here, it's just windings. So I think we can assume that because it's working at 8 volts, it will probably work at 20 volts as well. Right, let's unsolder these bits here. Oh, that's brilliant. Actually, what I'm going to do is, because it's going to confuse me again in the future, I think I'm going to tape on little bits of thing that says what it should be, like U, V, and W. There we have it, U, V, W. So I'm very happy with that little tool there. $8.99, and that's saved me lots of time because I know the motor's not faulty now, or unlikely to be faulty. So that's really good, and also it means I can use it again in the future, hopefully. You know what I should do? I should write down the voltage range as well, because maybe if it goes down to 3 volts, I could also use it for,
You know, let's say PSP motors, PlayStation Portable, I think that had a little brushless motor in. And sometimes you're wondering, does it work or not? Well, you could put this on it and then, mind you, that wouldn't be labelled up, would it? I'd like to know if it makes any difference. Meaning, does it damage anything if you get it wrong? I presume it just doesn't work. Should we try that? Should we try that in this video? So for example, do you know what I'm going to, because my curiosity is more than what I than $8.99. So I'm going to just tap this one on here. Let me see if I've got any crocodile clips. Have I got anything I can use?
So what I do here, just out of curiosity, is, you know it's labelled up as U, V and W. Well, what happens if I swap all them around? So that's what I do. We know that it works as I put it on from the Amazon listing for the different driver. So I, for example, put the U lead to W instead of U, and I put the W lead to V, and then I put the V lead to whatever's left, U or something like that. And believe it or not, it works.
No way, it works. It works even with them crossed. See? What?
And then I swap them over again and it still works.
No way. It works. Thing is, I think the time before the air was coming up this way. Maybe it's to do with the way it rotates, because obviously it has to be on a certain way, otherwise it's going to be a suction, a vacuum cleaner rather than a blower.
And then I swap them over again and it still works. So I've done 3 different combinations and they all work. What I'm not sure about is if the motor's going around the other way. So instead of going clockwise, I think on one of them they might have been going counterclockwise, but I don't actually know that for sure. But it's confusing to me why they work, because clearly it's labelled up. And unless it is the clockwise counterclockwise thing, I can't see with my little driver anyway why it makes a difference. So if you could add it down to the comment section below, what does the phases mean? Do they not work as efficiently if you mix them up, or is it purely the clockwise counterclockwise thing? Because obviously with this you need it to be going around the right way, otherwise it's not going to be a blower, it will be a vacuum cleaner instead, wouldn't it? It'd be sucking things up instead of blowing. So yeah, really interesting though. I would have thought that it wouldn't have worked if it was out of sync, because I thought instead of going like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 fire in order, it would be like 1 3 2, and it would be kind of rotating and then trying to go back on itself, rotating and trying to go back. So yeah, interesting. But anyway, we definitely know that the motor itself is working. So now I've got to turn my attention to the little circuit board, see if I can find out what's happening on there.
Yeah, but that one's blowing. Yeah, it works. Okay, let's turn it off before I blow something up. Very strange. I would have thought they needed to be in sync with each other for it to work. Don't know. It's really weird, that. So maybe the only difference it makes is polarity. But then on the third setting, what, you know. So blow this way, blow that way, and then what does the other setting do? I mean, we did 3 different combos there, didn't we? Oh well, okay. I think the motor's okay. I'm just going to write down what the voltage this is, just so it will help me in future. Well, interestingly, it says 7.4 volts to 20 volts. So maybe the reason it started to work is because when we went up to 8 volts, this came alive. So maybe this motor might well work on 4 or 5 volts with high current, if high amps, if, you know what I mean, if the driver allowed that. See, this driver here is 6 volts to 60 volts, this one down here, but this one is 7.4 to 20. Interesting. There we go. Now when I get it out in 7 years' time, I'll know that what the voltage is and also what those ones do as well. So although we're no closer to actually fixing it, we've proved that it's not the motor, and also pretty sure it's not the switch. So it looks like it's going to be something on here. So I did a nice job of melting this before. Let's just cut through and then I can melt it again. Right, now can I prise this apart again without it pulling off the capacitors? Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Yes, I can. No, I can't. There you go, that capacitor's gone. Okay. And this one, I don't think I got that one all the way off, but they're just massive heat sinks for the other side of these MOSFETs. That one's come off as well. What? Maybe I didn't do the best job soldering. Do you know what? Maybe I should prise this one out, get them back on, just in case. Just in case it is a capacitor problem. You know what I mean? They're both broken off there. I think I'm going to struggle with that. What are we? 25 volts, 100 microfarad. Oh no, it was one of these, wasn't it? Yeah, I've kind of broke the legs off them. Let me get two new ones. So the 25 volts, well, sorry, the one I put in was 25 volts, 100 microfarad. I couldn't work out which this one is because it just says... Apologies for my fingers, they're so rough at the moment. We're doing a bit of work around the house and I peeled a Satsuma. That's why this nail is orange, because I just jabbed it into the Satsuma. That is the truth. Yeah, I don't know what this is. So 100 microfarad, but I don't know what voltage this one is. 53 seems a weird voltage. So I think I'm just going to put in as high a volt as possible, 100 microfarad. I think I'm just going to use some electrolytics for the moment because I can worry about, you know, putting in one of these cans later on. So 100 microfarad 16 volt, 100 microfarad 25 volt. Well, let's just put in two of these and it might well work. I can always buy higher rated ones voltage wise if I need to. Let's just stick two of these in. Now I have to work out which one is negative. No, they've kindly labelled up. That's nice. They've labelled up the board here, which is good. See a positive there and a positive there. So let's stick those in. I'm just going to cut these down a little bit to give myself a little bit more room. And let's add some solder to here. See, maybe when I pulled it off last time, the other one was also a little bit iffy, but the thing is, why did this, you know, this is the same fault as when it arrived to me, and this was completely intact. I was the first one in here. Right, so that's the negative side here with the stripe. So this is just going to be rough at the moment. Let's just stick it on here. I want it out of the way of that because I've got a feeling I'm going to have to be testing these. Just going to put a little kink on the legs. This is bringing back horrible memories of doing Sega Game Gears. There we go. Right, let's make sure they're not shorting. No, I should be putting that there actually. There we go. Right, they're not shorting and that's not shorting. Let's just see if that's going to work. If not, I think we need to start looking into these because we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and we've got a little chip. I presume that's the chip that controls the timing and that must be for one like UWV or something, you know, for the different phases of it. Right, okay, so now I need to put this back in here. This back in here. Now let's see if we're going to have... No, how am I going to do this now? I'm just going to have to rest that on here. There's only one way this can go on from memory. Yeah, this is the only way it can go because that little cutout here is on this thing here, I think. So basically it has to go that way. So I'm just going to rest that down on there. Hopefully they will make a contact. Let's see. Oh my word. Whoa. Why? Do you reckon one of these capacitors? Well, I suppose what I need to do now is unsolder the capacitors, because this has been working. Yeah, so let me unsolder the caps and see if... it stops working. I wasn't expecting that to actually work. So let me unsolder one of the caps and see if it starts acting weird. Okay, so that's that one gone. Okay. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, here we go. Hold on. For a second there it made that noise. That's disappointing. I hope this isn't going to be an intermittent one. Let me take off the other cap. Right, please do the same fault. You beauty. Yes! Oh, fantastic. Amazing. Right, let's put the cap on that we took off the first one, and let's see now if it still does that, because it'd be unlikely that both caps were unsoldered. So it looks like maybe from manufacturer one of the caps had failed. And then when I took this off, I broke the cap, and I just thought, well, you know, I broke it, but maybe it wasn't soldered on to begin with. Maybe there was a little fracture in one of the... Where have they gone? Here. Maybe, because it was it's this one here, isn't it, the weird one? Maybe there was a little fracture, no, not that one, this one, on the leg, because you can see that that leg's broken now. This one's not, but that one was. Possibly when it was put on there might have been a bit of a fracture there. So maybe the cap wasn't actually doing what it needed to do. Right, so it still worked when we had this one on. So let's put this one back on here and see if it stops working. Oh, it's brilliant that we mimicked the fault. I mean, what would be amazing, I'm sure it's not going to be, but what would be amazing if it still did that fault now. But that still wouldn't prove it 100% yet. We would then have to put this one back on and for it to work. Because right now, it just might happen that it's not, it might be just not working right now. So we've just got this one on, not this one. So I'm hoping now it's not going to work. Okay, here goes. That's annoying. Okay, now let's take the cap off again. I'll tell you what, also, let me see if this works. Yep, and I want to see if this big one works. This one didn't work before. What this one did is, from memory now, they worked at very low speed, but not high speed. See. Nah, it cuts out again. It only works at low speed. Not weird. Okay, well, so we're back to the original. We're back to the original thing when I actually started working on this, which was where it worked perfectly on this battery and this battery, but not the big batteries. But those big batteries haven't got, they're just bypassed. The whole circuit board on there are bypassed now. That came all the way from Australia, Timsy Auto Air. I've still got his pen here somewhere. Here we go. Timsy's Auto Air. He was on the Patreon for a long time. My mate Vince Massive as well. Right, okay, let me now take that one off. I want to verify that it's still not going to work. And hopefully if I take this off and it doesn't work, then It looks like it was a capacitor problem. I will be disappointed if this works now. Alright, fingers crossed. Please do that again. Here we go. Beauty. Oh, that's so good. Wow. So it must be these that smooth out the signal, like store a bit of energy to then make it start smoothly. And I suppose once it's started, then it's fine. That's brilliant. So maybe it's kind of the initial surge to give it a little bit more to start it smoothly. That's so good. Fantastic. Right, okay, what am I going to do here? Oops. I think, should I just stick with the electrolytics? Because this is only for myself. I'm not going to be using it in the rain. So do I really need to have, you know, such heavy duty thing on it? I think I'm just going to stick with the electrolytics rather than using those cans. And I'm just going to stick them out the side. As long as they don't foul anything in here, then I can put this back on. And I think we'll leave it at that. I'm so happy. My wife actually she loved the 5 minutes that this was working. Because in the back garden we got some stones and there's big trees that drop their needles everywhere. And with this you can just put it on like half setting and then it doesn't blow the stones away, but the needles are lighter than the stones, so it blows the needles off. It really is useful. When it comes to the grass, personally I think it's quicker just to use a rake. But for things like the little stones, it's ideal. Also, it's fun. Right, so I'm going to fold it over on itself. And we'll see. If it's not happy with these, then I'll get 100 microfarad 50 volt ones. But I think it's going to be fine. I wonder if I was to put this on, would I be able to just measure the voltage at these at the caps? Let's have a look. Might give me an idea then of what of whether I'm going to be, you know, overstressing them. So let me go here and here. What's it reading right now? That. Let me just press this. 1.8 volts. But it's not actually running though, is it? It hasn't got the motor on it. Let me go on this one. Oh wow, that's higher. There you go. So maybe this is the important one. So we've got 18 volts there. Let me press it. So we've got full battery voltage, 18.5. And I bet you that's what the battery itself is. Let me go across. Yeah, we've got full battery voltage there. Well, look, what are they? 25 volts. It's a little bit close, isn't it? It probably would be better to have 35 volts or 50. But you're never going to put a battery that's more than 20 volts on it, because even fully charged, these are going to be what? 20-ish, 20 point something, 21, and these are 25. So I think it will probably be okay. So that's exactly what I do. I put the electrolytics back on and then I put the plasticky rubbery thing back on again. I have to allow for the electrolytics by cutting a bit out because it's kind of moulded around the original cans. If, for example, this gets really, really dusty and stops working over the months or years because maybe dampness then sits on the dust, then I can simply take it apart and clean it with IPA again. So I think this is going to be absolutely fine. I don't see why I have to have that board completely enclosed. I'm not going to be using it in the rain, and if it gets dusty, I'll take it apart and clean it again. I'm not selling this on. This is going to be kept because it is actually quite useful to have. Probably wouldn't buy one at full price, but when you get one cheap, then it's good. What's interesting is, and I'll show this later on in the video, when I had it working before, it would always vibrate before starting. Now it just starts smoothly. It would always give a little kind of like ding and then start. Now from the very beginning it just starts smooth, but I'll show you that later in the video. I just want to do a quick little experimental examination on the caps that came out. Well, not the one that I put in previously, but the other original cap, just to see if I can work out how it might have failed. Actually, just before, ow, I just stabbed myself in my new leads. Oh, that was deep. Didn't even give me much blood, just pain. Got to be so careful with these. They're unbelievably sharp. That's why they come with these. I should always put them on when I'm not using them. Yeah, that got me really deep, but it hasn't actually impacted much. I bet that bruises. Let's go to capacitance. So I've got negative on this side because I can see a little bit of leg sticking out, and this is one of the original ones. Let's see if it's 100 microfarad. No, it's not. It's nanofarad. What? Nanofarad? I'm slightly confused now. Maybe that's why I don't recognise the reading. Just in case a negative isn't a negative, it shouldn't make a difference. I want to just put them this way round, see if I still get that same reading. Is that why it's not working? Weird thing is, it's consistently that. It's not kind of ranging, it's just consistently 86, isn't it? I'm just going to double check, but 86 nanofarad is just going to be less than 1 microfarad, is it not? Just double check that. No, I'm wrong. So basically 86 nanofarad is 0.086. So it would be 1,000 nanofarad would be 1 microfarad. I'm wondering now if maybe this one was faulty all along. I put in this one and it worked fine because I just replaced another working capacitor. I broke it when I pulled it off. And then when my wife was using it, with the vibrations, my soldering came off. Or maybe, maybe the leg broke when I was kind of put it on and I was trying to put the melted plastic on and stuff. So I'm now thinking that maybe this was faulty from the very, very beginning. So let's just quickly try to dismantle it, just to see if we can see anything. Because I'm sure that should be more. It's a very big cap to be, less than 1 microfarad. So first things first, let's see if the legs are still actually intact. Yes. I think so. I think they are. Okay. I want to see if where these go, whether they might not be attached. Here we go. Right, okay, so this is all the different layers, I don't know what to call it. But this is what keeps it all separate. You can see we've got one here and one here on the legs. Looks okay, doesn't it? So how about if I was to go, well, that clearly is going up to here. I just wonder, are they connected? In fact, I can see that one there. I can't see the other one. Obviously, I should be wearing gloves. I'll wash my hands before I put my hands near my face or anything on my mouth. But don't copy what you see in my videos. If I wore gloves now, I wouldn't be able to do this. That's the problem. Right, here we go. Right, so I'm unravelling it. I want to see whether or not the legs are attached. Definitely hasn't dried up, it's still nice and wet. Right, okay, so we have, that's that one. Hold on a minute. That's that one. That one's definitely attached. Attached there. That one looks like it was attached, unless... This one seemed to come off easier than this one. Well, they've certainly gone through to there, haven't they? Well, annoyingly, there wasn't anything too conclusive there, but when I was unravelling it, you've seen that one of the plates was connected to that first pin, but then the second pin just seemed to come off very easy. So I'm thinking maybe that second pin wasn't attached properly to one of the actual plates of the capacitor. But saying that, I don't really know, because it kept on reading 86 nanofarad. It'd be different if it was kind of open, and then if I wiggle it around, I get a bit of a reading, but it was just consistently 86, which makes me think that maybe this capacitor is actually 100 nanofarad. It's just very strange, because to me it seems too big to be 100 nanofarad, because that says to me it'd be a tiny little surface mount one, as in, sorry, I know this is surface mount, but you know, one of those little ceramic capacitors that you see in all the Xboxes and the MacBooks and stuff like that. So yeah, not too sure about this one here, a little bit inconclusive, but if you could put it down in the comments section, would it likely to be 100 nanofarad? I'm going to say no, hence the reason I've put 100 microfarad in. But if I'm incorrect, please let me know, because maybe I do need to change this one out to 100 nanofarad. Anyway, I put it all back together. I just want to show you, when it's partially back together, what I mean by the vibration thing I mentioned earlier. This is nice, little touches like this. So if you have a look, I was trying to work out which way this goes on. Yeah, and I was thinking, oh, it looks like the big one's at the back, but they've keyed it, and that's what's nice. Can you see here? Key here and key here. No key, so it can't go that way. The only way it can go is here, because they've keyed it here. So it's little things like that. That's nice, because you can see it's been designed that way. I can also see what looks like a date here, but I'm not quite sure what 58 means. But that looks to 2024. There you go. Excellent. Right, let's just do up these last 4 screws. Also, I've noticed something. Even last time, when I thought everything was working fine on the last video, if you wanted to watch that, there's not really much to it, but it was on the end of the fixathon. October fixathon, I think it was. It was on the last day of that, 7 days, 7 fixes. And whenever I did it, and also when I showed my mate this one working, because he's got a Makita one, he was like, dude, what's happening? It like vibrates. Whenever I did it before, it rocked, then powered on. While he said on his one, it's completely smooth from the very beginning. Now, this is completely smooth. It doesn't do that wobble thing. So I know now 100% it's acting differently than it did in the last video. Which is really good, because every time I quite liked it, but it went and then went and then went. But this is just nice. Even though I did quite like the vibration. Here we have it all back together, and I'm using the Milwaukee battery with the adapter here. Not the safest way to do it when you're using this, because it could overheat, because it's normally going to be on full power all the time. And these little things here are just tricking, these little converters are just tricking this into thinking the battery's okay. But it's fine, because I know what it's doing, and I'm happy to use it, because I can just fill the battery every now and then. But anyway, look at this. Hopefully you can see the cardboard box moving. I'm so happy with it, and it's just so smooth now. Listen to that. It starts up just lovely. There. So you can hear it ramping up. Brilliant. I don't know why I'm so happy. I think it's just because it's a useful device to have, and I didn't think I'd be able to fix it. I thought it was going to be a chip problem that was controlling the phases, or I thought it might be one of those MOSFETs or something might have been like leaking or something, and I thought I was going to have to order up parts and wait for ages for them to arrive. So to be able to fix it in the one sitting for me is just brilliant. This is with the DeWalt battery, so this is with the proper battery. It's brilliant. I'm so happy.
So I'm just going to finish up the video now with my wife doing a little bit of leaf blowing, which will basically entail moving needles from A to B, then blowing B and moving them back to A again. But it's fun. Thanks for watching everybody, and I will see you all very soon.